So the next one is International Perspective on Energy Storage, where you can learn about international initiatives on energy storage technology, development and deployment, and also focus on collaboration and partnership opportunities through global collaboration. For these, we already have on stage with us Dr. Rahul Valavalkar. I would also like to call upon Mr. Krish Ajit. With over a decade of experience in renewable energy strategy, policy, product development and construction, Chris is the Senior Director of Strategy Consulting. He has specialized in grid storage market policy, application and detailed value proposition analysis. I would like to call upon Mr. Brian Cafe, who is the Industry Research Manager at China Energy Storage Alliance. He tracks news, projects, policies, research and financing related to the global energy storage industry. Next we have with us Mr. Jan Bergdorf, who is the Director of the Indo-German Energy Program of GIZ based in New Delhi. Before joining GIZ, Mr. Bergdorf worked as a freelance energy consultant and has vast experience in the field of strategy, project and organizational development and management. And last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Janil Yoon, ESS Business Group Leader in Hosam Corporation, which is the largest energy storage system integrator in Korea and also the largest electrical equipment provider in Korea. Can we have a round of applause for all our speakers for the next section?
Thank you. I'm not going to do any presentation, but I'd like to just set stage for all the international speakers here on dais. Again, the energy storage, the way the industry is developing, has become a truly a global community, and it's almost a family. I mean, all of us we keep on meeting at different events, and we feel that to succeed in this area and for energy storage to become mainstream, we have to work together across the globe as a single family. One of the initial steps which started to happen in this area was maybe formation of what was that 1993 called as a Battery Utility Group, which was the predecessor of the Energy Storage Association of USA. It was the first time an industry group came together to start looking at energy storage, and it was actually driven by utilities as well as Sandia National Lab in US to start looking at common issues related to integration of energy storage across. Now, 20 years down the line, the field has significantly changed. Perhaps credit goes to California Energy Storage Alliance and its founder Dennis Lin and Chris representing CISA here, which started looking at state level policies. Because ESA has done lots of work over the years in the US, and I'm part of the board of directors of ESA for the last 6 years in the US, where ESA has played a very critical role at national level in bringing together all the key stakeholders and driving policies at a national level. But then California laid the way in terms of showing how some of the local issues which are creating challenges for system operators within the state can also be used for driving policy at the state level, and that can generate a big driver for industry. And California has led the way, where California Public Utility Commission has now actually mandated deployment of over 1,000 gigawatt of storage as part of the overall renewable integration plan before 2020. And Chris will be providing us insights about some of these developments happening in US. There are also other steps which have taken in the US by regulators which have led the way, particularly on the ancillary services, and we already heard some discussion earlier. But just the creation of pay-for-performance markets in US, that has generated tremendous opportunities for power storage or shorter duration storage technologies to provide grid ancillary services and support services. And right now there are over 300 megawatt of such projects getting commercially built purely because energy storage has been found as the most suitable and most efficient technology for providing these solutions. And this is being done in a context in US where there are existing generators who are providing these resources. So people are either shifting these generators to provide more energy or actually shutting down some of these old generators which are inefficient for providing these ancillary services and building new energy storage facilities. So definitely in India, we have a big opportunity to leapfrog in this area. Along with the US, I think all the other countries have taken a big lead in this area. Brian is with the China National Energy Storage Alliance, which is again a very critical part of this, because again we have seen over the last decade the pace at which China has adopted renewable technologies has been amazing, and also China as a global manufacturing giant, I think all the Chinese technology companies are going to play a key role around the globe in bringing costs down for these technologies and increasing the adoption. Obviously, Germany is a key technology leader in this area. We have Siemens as a key partner for this event, but also German BBA, German Energy Storage Alliance, was also created almost the same time as India Energy Storage Alliance in 2012, and have already led the way in getting together significant push for adoption of energy storage in the European context. And we're going to hear some view from Jens about how things are developing in Germany and European context and how it can be applicable in India. And last but not the least, we have Junil from representing Korea Smart Grid Association. And again, Korea, along with Japan, has become the hub for technology innovation. And he's going to talk about the perspective of Korean industry and how they are looking at not just about supplying technologies to the rest of the world, but how actually Korea is learning from some of these global initiatives, particularly within frequency regulation, which is an area which Junil is very personally passionate about, and how Korea has started adopting some of the learnings from US and deploying projects in Korea. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Chris to start off.
Thank you, Rahul. And thank you all. Thank you for being here. This is really amazing. I feel like the presentations already are about content and about learning and about bringing stakeholders together. And I feel like this is where we make change. I'm going to talk some about California, but I'm not talking about how California is great or we're doing everything right, because I actually think India is going to be the better long-term market for energy storage. I think what I want to talk about is the lessons we've learned in California, how some of those lessons can be applied to India, and we understand that the grids are very different. We know that the situation is different, but I think the process of thinking about storage and the process of working with all the stakeholders is something that we can share here. So, good. No? Thank you. So I'm from a company called Strategen. We do strategic consulting for a large number of global companies. And we actually, one of our second clients was an energy storage company. And very quickly with energy storage, we realized that you need to get involved in policy and regulation. California is at least as regulated as India in the power markets. And so you immediately have to get involved with legislature, policy, utilities, transmission operators. And so we started advocating on behalf of some of our client companies. And then the Public Utilities Commission in California actually asked us to start the California Energy Storage Alliance. And it started with just a couple of member companies, and now I think it's just hit 90 member companies. And these cover all forms of energy storage, including thermal storage, pumped hydro, renewable energy developers. And I think this has been the key to changing California. There's nothing special about California other than the fact that the companies were willing to participate, build advocacy, and I think what Rahul has done here is amazing. I think the more India Energy Storage Alliance is supported, the more you get the same kind of change here, because it takes a lot of work. And it really takes bringing all of the industry together with all of the other stakeholders, environmental groups, policymakers, and of course the utilities. So I only show this, we've got 20 working groups in CSET, and it shows really how many different policy issues there are, how many different regulatory issues there are to make change. So everything from alternative fuel vehicles to flexible ramping. We've got meetings with the independent system operator as well as the Public Utilities Commission. And it really takes a lot of proceedings and a lot of time. Strategen actually founded with the U.S. Department of Energy. We built the Global Energy Storage Database. I hope many of you are using this already and already in this room know about it. But it was designed to be the first publicly accessible free database of energy storage projects. And we operate partly by your submissions. So if you're building storage projects, let us know. One of the things we've added, now you've seen it grow globally, but one of the things we've added, it's hard to see this, but we've got a new section for policies and a new section for codes and standards. Part of the way we get costs down is by sharing knowledge, and so sharing ideas about best practices for policies and codes and standards is tremendously helpful. We also worked with many of the folks in this room to found IESA, which is the Global Energy Storage Alliance, and this is a nonprofit that's focused on education, really getting collaboration together to have a more efficient, clean, reliable, affordable, secure electric power system. So I've seen a lot of evaluations of energy storage, and I see this common problem, that people look at the off-peak rate to the on-peak rate when it's grid connected, and they look at a certain number of savings per kilowatt hour, and then the losses, and they say, well, storage is too expensive. And I'd like to ask that people please stop with this kind of analysis, because the benefits of storage aren't here. This is part of it, but if you're missing the bigger picture if you don't see all the bigger benefits of storage. When we look at customer-sided, distribution-sided, and transmission-sided storage, if you're not looking at infrastructure savings, you're missing the picture. Saving money on, we talk a lot about the cost of generation, but I don't hear much conversation about the cost of transmission, the cost of distribution. Storage can save money on both of these things. Our transmission and distribution systems are generally built around a single peak load, and they're not well utilized. So if you start calculating the savings, when we started talking to stakeholders and we started looking at how storage could be applied to California, it was about figuring out how we could look at the benefits of storage, distribution, and transmission, and then how we could allow storage to capture the value of those benefits. Likewise, peak generation capacity is very expensive. There's plants that are used relatively rarely in terms of the number of hours per year. Flexible capacity was something that was discussed in the last panel, and I really appreciate the last panel discussion. Storage can provide flexibility both when it's charging and when it's discharging, which is really helpful with renewable grids. Another thing I don't see enough in the analysis is the analysis of total system benefits. That when you look at storage in the system, you can look at better operations of not just renewable plants, but existing thermal generation plants and coal-fired generation. If you can take away the rapid fluctuations in the ramping, you get lower GHGs and you get better utilization of all the grid assets. And then, of course, customer reliability. We heard also in the last panel, what's the value of reliability to customers? And it varies widely by customer, and that's why it's often difficult to quantify. But this is obviously a huge source of value here in India. And then at the bottom, we've got energy. So energy is definitely important, but you need to look at all of the benefits of storage to really get it. So when we did this in California, these results obviously don't apply to India. We have different power markets, but when we started looking at all of the different benefits of capacity, energy, frequency regulation, spinning reserve, in this particular case, we ended up seeing that storage actually had a benefit greater than the cost. And now the costs have actually come down, so this case is even more compelling. Likewise, when we looked at storage on the distribution system, where storage could help defer distribution upgrades, it could also, at the same time it defers distribution upgrades, there's lots of times when it's not doing that, and so it can help provide power plant peaking capabilities, frequency regulation, and other capabilities. So we look at the value. This is where the value comes from for storage. This is a case where for 3 years it provides a distribution upgrade benefit, and then it also is supplying benefits for frequency regulation and other benefits. And actually this is interesting because the purple is the energy benefit. So you can see relative to where the benefits come from, most of the benefits come from grid infrastructure, regulation, and other high-value activities. something in California that some of you might have seen. We call it the duck chart. And this is sort of the future for many places. And the reason it kind of looks like a duck. What we're seeing here is the increasing renewable penetration as we go toward 2020. The duck has a bigger belly, it gets fatter. And this is actually from the California Independent System Operator. The duck is crying because California is a narrow state, and when the sun goes down, we end up with the evening peak. Like India, we have a lot of air conditioning load, and so there's this very steep ramp and then a very high evening peak. Storage can help raise the belly of the duck. It can help deal with this fast ramp, and it can also help cut off the head of that duck. When we look at storage use cases, we did a whole process of identifying all the use cases. I don't expect people to read it, although the slide deck will be available. But the point is there are many different uses of storage on the grid, and these are just some of them. These are the ones we consider the highest value use cases. But transmission-sided, distribution-sided, and customer-sided, there's multiple ways to use it. And what we see is that the companies that are most successful are the ones that combine multiple benefits in a single system. And so I think people should always be looking for where the value exists with storage. And I think there's a chart like this for India as well. And it's something that you work together with multiple stakeholders and you define what are your use cases, what are the combinations of benefits that make a good business case. We have a variety of factors advancing storage in California. Like I say, these didn't come easily. We weren't just handed these. One of the reasons why we got the 1.3 gigawatt procurement target for 2020 was because of that cost effectiveness analysis that we did. So you have to work together as a group, as an industry, and with other folks to really make change happen. We've got long-term procurement planning. We're driving change at the California Independent System Operator. We have an incentive program for customer-sided storage. And we have net energy metering. And all of these things involve many parties. We've still got challenges. Hopefully we're getting through a lot of these with wholesale rate treatment, capacity value, interconnection has been a big issue. We also worry about inertia in the grid. How do we handle distributed energy resources? How do we handle demand response? But the good news is that utility contracting is happening. These aren't pilot projects. Southern California Edison just announced a procurement. They only had to procure 50 megawatts of storage. They're going to procure 261. And that comes from AES, which is a large thermal power plant developer that's now developing storage, and they're saying storage is lower cost than traditional natural gas power plants. We also saw something of a surprise in a large variety of customer-sided energy storage projects, including ICE Energy, which does ICE thermal storage, and this is the second time that a large utility has bought a lot of ICE Energy and deployed them on customer sites in order to provide benefits to the grid. STEM, Advanced Microgrid Systems and NRG, they're doing customer-sided storage. And we see a lot of value in customer-sided storage because it's the end use of the grid. You can save a lot of distribution infrastructure, and you also have a chance to replicate systems and reduce costs. More storage is on the way. December 1st, so just a couple days ago, PG&E announced their procurement. They have about a 74 megawatt target, but they've said they're willing to do more. SCE has another 16.3 megawatts coming, and San Diego Gas and Electric is also expected to release an energy storage RFO within the next couple days. So we're also seeing customer-sided energy storage just being installed through the incentive program. So we've got both utility procurement and customer procurement. So one of the things that's happening is that the utilities are actually looking at how do we evaluate storage. And this is from Pacific Gas and Electric, one of our largest utilities. And they're looking, as I said, not just at the net energy value, but the ancillary services value, capacity value. They're looking at variable and fixed costs. And then they're also looking at the value of storage in terms of its location, because there is a high degree of locational value or locational cost for locating certain storage in a certain place. Transmission and distribution network upgrade costs, the increased efficiency of fossil generation due to adding storage to the grid, and then renewable generation. We're going to be seeing more curtailment in the US. So we basically installed all the solar and wind, and we're going to have to start cutting it off because it's over-generating at certain times. storage can take that over generation and move it to higher value times of the day. We're seeing some other procurement in small utilities in California, Imperial Irrigation District in the city of Redding. And then we've got Hawaii coming on in a big way. Islands are a great place for storage. They're usually running on diesel, and they also see high value to storage. So both HECO and HELCO, HECO's got a 200 megawatt storage RFP out. The New York Independent System Operator is doing a huge initiative with incentives and looking at the locational value of storage and across the US. In fact, we just had a Texas utility state that they're looking at 5,000 megawatts of storage instead of natural gas peakers. This is huge. This is the stuff when I started, I mean, even just 3 years ago, people said, oh, it's a science project and this and that, but we're seeing real procurement, and the thing we see with storage is it's just like solar. The more you install, the cheaper it gets. So if we build it, then we get lower cost storage. In fact, that's something I want to impress upon folks, because I hear a lot about, is storage cost effective or is it not cost effective? And I think what we see is the same thing we saw with solar, is that it is cost effective in high value areas and when you stack benefits. So if you're a company looking at storage, you've got to be looking for those high value locations. Or utility, same thing. Look for the high value locations, but as the costs come down, all of a sudden the number of locations that storage makes sense just increases exponentially. And it's important to say that storage system costs, like I said, if we can increase the volume, then the costs come down. We see it in cell phones, we see it in computers. So sometimes a little bit of a push can be tremendously helpful. So what's at stake for all of this and what's at stake in this conference? I think we want greater system flexibility, faster response from grid assets, better reliability for customers, better energy security, lower emissions, renewable integration, which we talked about. And I think really the biggest opportunity is what we see in India with 400 million people who don't have access to power, that we can go straight to renewables and storage and just skip the traditional electric grid. We can see that all over the world, just like what we saw with cell phones, and I think that that's really where we have a huge opportunity. So finally, I want to close with a little look at just some context. When we look at the technologies we can invest in, we're looking at fossil generation. The upfront capital cost is going to keep going up, and we're dependent on a fuel cost that's highly variable. In fact, you can't buy long-term hedges on fossil fuel. You can't get a 10-year hedge, but you can buy a 10-year or 20-year PV system and know that that cost is coming down. If we look at energy storage, we've seen huge cost reductions, and this is just with the limited volume that we've got now. If we have more volume, we get further cost reduction. We've also seen that from the fuel cost for energy storage. If you fuel it with renewables, that both solar and wind have come down in cost tremendously. So if I look at that and I think, where do I want to invest my money as a society? I think I'd look on the right side. So thank you all. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you at this conference, and I'm glad to see you all here.
Thanks, Chris. And again, already I think in the earlier session there was a remark about E.ON and how E.ON has just recently announced that they are going to bet on the safer technology, which is renewables. And definitely I think the greater energy storage integration is going to help making that further safer and more economical. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Brian to talk about activities happening in China.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here India Energy Storage 2014. I'm Oliver Wool in India. I'm working with a team based in Beijing to promote energy storage applications in China. And a little bit of background, we're started by a gentleman, an entrepreneur in China, who had experience in the flow battery industry and developing Canadian rails flow batteries. And kind of realized that for this industry to happen, there needs to be an organization that works with all the stakeholders, the policymakers, the vendors, the grid, generation. So that's a little bit of a background on the China Energy Storage Alliance, firstly in IESA. And my presentation today is basically going to give a crash course on energy storage in China, from the deployments and the policy. So to jump in. Here's basically an overview of how we see the segments of energy storage in China. It's got the biggest grid in the world in terms of capacity and generation annually. So on the T&D side, there's two major grid companies, and currently pumped hydro is really the dominant technology for peak shifting, and on the generation side, there's only really one project now that's helping to do clean coal generation for optimizing thermal units. So these are two areas on top where there's large potential, but really it's unproven. There's demonstration projects in both areas. But what's really exciting in China now is both the isolated grids and the renewable energy integration applications of energy storage. So some of the key drivers are, and I'll talk about a little bit more later, is the solar goals for 2014, microgrid projects by the National Energy Administration, and on the renewable integration side, just like India, China has some staggering and very ambitious goals for renewable energy integration. And there's some serious procurement issues, which storage is currently being used to demonstrate some of the possible solutions. So here's a look at the installations currently on the right side. And you can see, starting from around 2000, China's grown fairly steadily to 74 megawatts of installed capacity today. And there's about 41 gigawatts currently of pumped hydro, which is expected to grow to 70 gigawatts by 2020. Okay, so looking at wind, the northern provinces highlighted here in blue are areas of northern China where there's lots of large-scale wind farms. And I've highlighted just a few examples. The red province here is Liaoning province, a very wind-rich province. And there's two interesting demonstration projects that are being initiated by China Guodian, a large generation group in China. So they're using, in one instance, lithium-ion batteries combined with a vanadium redox flow battery to do load shifting, forecast hedging, and output smoothing, as well as frequency regulation. That's the Hefeng energy storage project, located in almost 100 megawatt wind farm. Another project similar is called the Wondiushi energy storage project at a 50 megawatt wind farm. Kind of similar applications, but purely using a VRP system. So curtailment is a large issue. In some cases, in certain months, it'll get to 40% of the potential generation. So, but what's interesting is in this province in red, there is a recommendation, and we talked a little bit yesterday about how friendly wind farms, or wind farms that are able to stay within requirements of renting, could have higher earnings. So storage is going to be used here to kind of optimize the operation of these wind farms. And I'm sure that everyone's probably aware of China's largest, it's called the Zhongbei project, and it's the largest demonstration in China. And the gentleman from Egypt said yesterday that the energy storage is part of a four-leg cable with the wind, solar, and the grid, right? So it's a sturdy demonstration, and it has about 20 megawatts of installed capacity today. And the second phase of this Zhongbei project is going to introduce 50 more megawatts of energy storage, which is yet to be determined the technologies. But currently, the technologies used are lithium-ion, lead acid, and flow batteries, which really showcases the dominant technologies used in China today among China's vendors. Let's see. Okay, so looking again now at solar, some of the, there's a large trend I think that's interesting for 2014. They said that the installations of a 14 gigawatt total solar goal for 2014, that 8 gigawatts would be distributed, or The blue provinces here highlight where in previous years have been the locations of large centralized solar plants. And the red provinces are going to be where in 2014 the distributed installations are going to be made, where there's a high commercial industrial load base, higher electricity prices, and some experimentation with time of use pricing. But there's still policy needed, and this combination of factors would be the perfect storm for energy storage systems to be a solid market there. So just put a note quickly. I don't think they reached the total gigawatts of installation for distributed solar in 2014. Those numbers aren't really out currently, but at least you can see the vision of these policymakers was in that direction towards distributed solar. Okay, so a quick word on policy in China. It's very difficult to talk about an energy storage policy in China because there really isn't any guided or directed policy like we've seen in some other markets overseas. But this is a look at three important government bodies that are producing documents and policies related to energy, and there's been two recent developments last month actually. First from the State Council, which is China's central people's government, a very high-level government organization, and they released their Energy Development Strategic Action Plan for 2014 to 2020, and it specifically mentioned energy storage to be used for the increase of renewable energy as well as the carbon emission reductions, which is a very urgent issue in China. The NDRC, the National Development and Reform Commission, an organization directly under the State Council, has also released more information on their Shenzhen transmission and distribution grid price reform pilot project, which is an interesting project, not directly related to storage, but it could have interesting implications for opening up China's grids to more transparency and having the electricity prices better reflect the cost of generation in China, which is an initial kind of part of their larger grid reforms. And the NEA, also under the NDRC, is looking at large capacity energy storage, which is expected to be released soon. Okay, so I want to talk quickly about the international investment and trade opportunities because that's part of the topic of this panel. And what I've done here is I've highlighted some successful examples of foreign companies coming to China for different reasons, either investment or by acquisition. Samsung is investing heavily in facilities in China and in Boston Power as well, focusing on electric vehicle and mobility markets. And on the green energy storage side, some interesting JVs are taking place. NEC and Wanxiang have formed an interesting JV that will be also focusing on green grid side, as well as a JV from the CTV, a successful zinc bromine company in the US, Malta. So also BYD, needless to say, they're a major player overseas, and in China as well, they're actively participating in some projects. So to end, I just wanted to say that these are some of the members of the IESA. We have about 90 as well. And there's an interesting mix of technologies, great institutes, and if you want to learn more about the CNESA, I welcome you to come by my booth and ask me questions for more information. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rule. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. This was so down to earth when talking about a gigawatt scale deployment happening in China, which would be a very big news anywhere else in the world. But I guess the scale at which I think deployments of all other technologies are happening in China, I think they still feel that they have to do something much bigger. But again, we're glad to have you here and glad to work with all of your member companies to drive this. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite Mr. Jens, who is representing the Indo-German Energy Program at IESA, and talk about
not all of you may be aware of what it is. GLF is a German federal enterprise. We are owned by the Federal Republic of Germany and organized as a private sector entity. And GLF supports the objectives of the German government, mainly in international cooperation, which means we are here in the cooperation, we are working here from Delhi in cooperation with the Indian government, supporting in various issues, mainly for my project in the energy sector. And here we have a huge program where we support MNE and MOP on the introduction of green energy corridors. And this project is started recently. It is accompanied by a loan of 1 billion euros through KfW Development Bank, and this is the framework in which we are working here. The facts about our business, I can leave it over. We have around about 70,000 people working all over the world. It's in 130 countries currently. So coming to the energy sector in Germany, just some key figures about the renewable deployment in Germany. You can see here the figures until 2012, and the curves you see here are more or less the same for the current year. So you see that the renewables are taking quite a big share in the German energy supply now. So if you only look into wind and solar, you will find that more than 70 gigawatts are installed capacity in Germany, in a small country just the size of Maharashtra, to compare it to India, and the population of Rajasthan. This is nearly 100% of our demand, because Germany has just a maximum capacity on the demand side of 80 gigawatts. So more than 70 can be deployed, already supplied by renewables. And then you see the problem about that. This means that we have to do something about our electricity market as by now. On the other hand, the electricity supply in Germany is as safe as it could be. In average, an electricity customer has an outage of maximum 15 minutes per year. In most of the parts of the city, it's less than 3 minutes. So you hardly experience any power failure at all in Germany. So this is a market in which we are working and in which we are thinking about storage issues as well. Let's have a look, and I'll show you here some slides which are not from us but from Next Energy. Next Energy is a daughter company from EWE, energy supplier in northwestern Germany, which has a huge share in renewables currently. So just the figure, they have a demand on the distribution net from their customers on roughly 2.5 gigawatt, and they have an renewables intake into their grid of about nearly 6 gigawatt. So this grid is a power supplier, it's not a distributor anymore, and they face a lot of problems concerning to this. And look into the storage. So what can be done if you look into the fluctuation of renewable energies? You see here one day in October last year, where for instance there was at 6 p.m. on one day a difference between the demand and supply from 11.7 gigawatt and the hydro storage capacity, which is currently available in Germany. It's just 7 gigawatt, or in terms of energy, 40 gigawatt hours. So you see the problem that the fluctuation of the renewables we have in Germany cannot at all be tackled by the storage facility we already have. And the question remains whether it should be. Of course, we have since long time pumped hydro. You saw here a picture of the plant in Oldestar with a capacity of 8.5 gigawatt hours. So this is there, and looking into the European market, you know the grid is a European grid, it is not just a German grid. You have potential from pumped hydro of about 50 terawatt hours. So there is a potential in this sector, of course, where we have to look. Other ideas which are currently discussed salt caverns in Europe where hydrogen storage might be possible, about 32 terawatt hours in all. But this is the future. This is nothing which is available by now. But people are thinking about integrating this. And a big issue what we are discussing as well, introducing electric cars and using them as a storage capacity as well. So this is just a fear about what might be possible in the future. But what will come up on this is an open question, because we have an unregulated electricity market in Germany. There is no regulator looking into the electricity supply. The regulator is only looking into the grid issues and the costs of transportation and distribution through the grid. So if we are talking about storage, we have to be aware storage is in competition to everything else what is there in Germany. So, and therefore, we are not only talking from the policy side, we are not at all talking about storage alone. We are as well, of course, talking about grid expansion, we are talking about DSM and smart grids, and we are looking into optimization of the energy mix we have in Germany. Currently, it is a little bit one-sided. We have the renewables, mainly wind and solar, and we have on the other side more or less the coal, because the gas phased out due to cost effects, and the role of storage is minimized. Of course, we are talking as well of a capacity market, but the people are arguing about that, whether this should be necessary or not. I skip this. So the summary from Next Energy about storage is that a stable and reliable European power system is possible with a system based mainly on renewable energy sources without main storage. Fluctuations, of course, if the expansion of renewables is going on, there is a need for larger storage capacities with the high share of renewables. High costs and limited capacity of storage, this is an issue. We have to need to reduce storage or backup capacities by use of alternative options. So, but what are they? Small storage capacities lead to significant increase in share of area. Yes, this is clear, but we are talking then of small short-term storage in batteries and, of course, advanced storage which is available. Limited overcapacities needed for larger scale integration of RES. This is the conclusion of Next Energy. Coming to another study done by Agora Energiewende recently, they think as well that the expansion of renewable energy does not have to wait for electricity storage. It can be done with the existing system for the next 20 years. The flexibility comes, of course, from the expansion of the grid, which is anyway necessary, because a lot of wind power comes from the north, and the demand is currently more in the west and in the south. So we need an extension for that. Otherwise, we are going to continue annoying our neighbors, mainly Poland, to get all the cheap wind power from Germany and has to shut down their fossil fuel power plants, which is not that easy for them because they are not technically equipped to do that. Our new power plants in Germany, even the big ones, 1100 megawatt on one block on lignite, they are able to run on 30% demand. This is possible. The market for new storage technology will grow dynamically. So Energiewende sees this market for that, and we can look into the future, but it has to compete in the market. Other findings are that, of course, this is very important. Storage must receive equal access to market for flexibility. So we have to treat the storage as the other suppliers, and they have to have an entrance to this market. The storage should become a tool in the toolbox of the distribution system operators. This is definitely something we see in the future in Germany. We need that this is an integrated part, but on equal means with the other positions. So some elements on the German storage policy. As said before, we are in a complete unregulated electricity market, so the government is not looking for that much. The business people have to look by themselves, but there is a support program for decentralized battery storage systems from 2013, and this is looking into the fact that the feed-in tariff, which is the basis for our success in renewable energies, for PV came down rapidly, so that for the customer who puts the PV system on his rooftops, it's easier and cheaper to use this power primarily for his own demand. So, and then he can of course invest in this battery storage and use this for his own purpose. So the feed-in tariff is now coming down to 21 or even 15 euros per kilowatt hour, but the customer is paying between 28 and 30 cent. So, and then the other issue is the support initiative for energy storage. This is mainly an R&D support. There are 60 innovative projects currently. They are in all kinds of technologies, thermal, chemical, electrical, but as well on management issues and so on. So this is the overview from Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, James. As we were talking about some of the recommendations, it was sort of very pleasant to see actually some of the learnings from US as well as Germany, and I think the overall theme has been that it's not necessarily that storage community is looking for subsidies, but it's about having access to the markets, having transparent market rules, and ability to capture multiple value streams. But without further ado, I'd like to invite Sunil to share the perspective from the Korean industry.
Thank you for the invitation to this honorable session. All right, I'll skip the energy storage systems definition here. Already you know it includes battery and inverter, transformer, all the system inside, and I think Indian people are very strong in software, so the power management system will be very critical in India. I'll skip over one slides. And in Korea, we have 80 gigawatt of installed capacity of generation, and we have like 76 gigawatt of peak generation demand. And we have 4,000 islands along the beach, and we have like 500 occupied islands. Also, we have 5.6 gigawatts of renewable energies with nuclear and coal and LNGs. Also, we have 5 gigawatts of pumped hydro energy storage. And the difference between Korea and India is frequency regulation rules, and we are maintain 60 hertz plus minus 0.2 hertz. That's why we have semiconductors, petroleum, chemicals. Most of those industries needs quality energy from the grid. And also we have rule for the providing energy to the island people. So government is give them support to provide energy, electricity to the people in the island people. Also, our government is very aggressively supporting energy storage, also microgrids and smart grid. And our president, Mr. Park, mentioned energy storage in public events several times. So I work for Toshan Corporation, which is the largest electrical equipment manufacturer in Korea. Also, we are doing business in India and North America. 1/3 of wind turbines in North America is connected by Toshan Corporation's transformer. And then I also work for Korea Smart Grid Association. I'm chairing the committee of IESA in this association. This association is supporting governmental advisory of EVCI, AMIs, microgrids, ESS, and also the EMS for the energy management system. So Korean government has several measures to support microgrid and smart grid and renewable energies. The recent one is creative initiative of 2020, 1.7 gigawatt of ESS will be installed in Korea. Also, the energy policies like Energy Master Plan and 6 electricity supply plan says we will install 2 gigawatts of energy storage in Korea. With those policies, we have many kinds of measures to support ESS in Korea. One is R&D support, and one is demonstration and promotion support. So with the R&D support, there is a Jeju Smart Grid demonstration project that was the biggest one. And we find out what is the key item for the smart grid in Jeju Island. We find out ESS and AMI is the most critical item in smart grid. Also, we had a Jocheon substation renewable integration ESS with 4 megawatt of ESS. Also, we have 8 megawatt of frequency regulation ESS in the Honam power plant in southern part of mainland in Korea. Also, there are many kinds of support, a subsidy program. There is some promotion program from the Korean government. I'll show you some key learnings from these support programs. This 4 megawatt of ESS, KEPCO did this project and we installed it. Kosong was providing, we provided 4 megawatt of BCSs, and Samsung SDI provided 8 megawatt hour of lithium-ion batteries for this. And the KEPCO checked all the functionality of ESS to integrate a wind turbine, 9 megawatt of wind turbines. Also, they checked the peak shaving functionality, and also they are checking the frequency response for frequency regulation services with ESS in Jeju Island. So this project helped to buy procurement of KEPCO of 52 megawatts, and they have announced 500 megawatt ESS purchasing for frequency regulation in Korea. So this project helped them to understand ESS and the grid usage. And the KPMC, which is a postal co in India, they are working with Kyosan and LSIS and many other LG Chem and SK Innovation, which makes batteries and PCS in Korea. We are trying to make a tariff scheme for the frequency regulation service in Korea. And the Korean grid has 4% of T&D losses. That's the least value in the world. And we find out the frequency regulation scheme in Korea has lots of costs are already included. So we want to change it to a less cost with the ESS. So the ESS can reduce electricity tariff, I believe. And this project will make that. And also, we got a subsidy from Korean government. We installed like 500 kilowatt hour of Korea agricultural market ESS for arbitrage. Also, 1.6 megawatt hour of Dojong B-zone is a commercial building in Korea. And also, we had a microgrid project with in Kappa Island. There was 450 kilowatt of diesel engines only before. And the government of Jeju Island wants to make it as a carbon-free island. So they installed two number of 250 kilowatt of wind turbine. It was from India. And we installed 1 megawatt of PCS and 1 megawatt hour of batteries. Now we are controlling all the grids with the ESS, because if the grid, it's a matter of size of the grid and also size of the renewable resources. If renewable resources is much more stronger than the other generators, then there was always a problem, and the ESS will balance the grid, and ESOs will be a conductor of orchestra. So we are managing this grid with our ESS. There is solar also, and ESS is a key component when the renewable resources are coming, more than half of the resources. And we are studying with battery is very expensive one in this system. So if we don't have any enough battery to maintain 24 hours providing electricity from renewable resources, then you can use it as a hybrid electric vehicle, like diesel engine. You can operate with a highly efficient way, and we can provide energy from renewable resources also. Okay, we have more than 60 big islands, less than Jeju Island. We are working on Kasa Island also, and there are 4 or 5 more islands which are changing to carbon-free islands. Also, we are helping other countries like Hong Kong and Mozambique. Mozambique has a free power plant with solar, and ESS. The population in those towns are now exploding with the light and the electricity. I'll skip these parts, and you already know. So I'll conclude with the one message. The regulation reformation is very critical to adopt ESS in your country, and it does not make the new value for the energy. It will only, you can change the regulation reformation can adopt ESS in your grid. That's a key factor, and already your regulatory people are known well about the ESS, and the motivated people who are there I saw in this morning. So I think India will change your grid with more strong and more stable grid with ESS, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivek. I just have a quick question for all the panelists. Actually, now since morning we have heard some of the discussion in India, some of the concerns about maybe adopting storage technologies or adopting ancillary services, given some of the deficit issues in India. But then you're looking at maybe from a slightly different perspective. So do you have any thoughts in terms of how in each of your countries you're seeing some of these debates going in similar way or changing? Any thoughts or any inputs which we can incorporate, because it seems that MNRE has already announced that they want to create a roadmap for energy storage in India. And again, already yesterday we had some roundtable discussions with Indian policymakers to talk about what needs to be done. But since we have the benefit of all of you from around the world, I'd like to get your inputs into some quick thoughts right now, and I'll also encourage you to submit maybe a more detailed recommendation which we can use for some of the government officials later in India. But we'll start with this. Thank you, John.
Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah. Good. Okay. So I would say that one of the most important things you already touched on, which is how do you capture multiple benefits with a single system? In California, we have problems where a system that's installed for distribution benefit can't participate in the market, so we have to change that rule. Or a system that's providing customer benefit can't provide distribution benefit. The other thing is to look at where benefits exist that aren't being compensated for, and I think there's a lot of that in India, where you can see that there's a calculated benefit that can exist, but there's no way to actually get paid for that benefit. So that's a great thing for a roadmap. We're doing an energy storage roadmap in California, and we're looking at what are all the benefits and what are all the barriers to accessing those benefits and getting interconnected, and what are the barriers that are holding us back. Sure.
Well, in China, we're also having this kind of roadmap for a high penetration of renewables by 2050, and how energy storage can play a role in that, that progress to those goals. But it's interesting. I'm sitting next to the company that's helped China maybe look into a proposal for doing something based off of the self-generation or SGIT policy. And in China, it could be something that helps accelerate the market. So I think it's important to study successful markets and experience.
Yeah, I think I think the idea to integrate this now at this time when we are talking about integrating renewables into the power grid in India and all, this is about the start here. We are farming grids. We are doing a lot of this here in India. And then the storage issue should be a part of this. We will support the government here in erecting these green energy corridors. And for our part, we are left especially on doing the management. Integrating the renewables means that the local tech center should be able to deal with these high capacities of renewables we have here in the United States all over the country. And then I think the storage question is an essential part of this, so I'm very happy that the government is looking into this and taking the place for doing this.
Aggressive target of MNR's renewable installation is it makes a good environment to install ESS, but there are many measures to overcome the variability of renewable resources like load shedding, many etc. So I think the energy problem is about money itself. So you have to choose clean or cheap, and there is a certain area in between cheap and clean energy. So with the Kappa Island example, we are using ESS with the diesel engine to optimize the diesel engine's output, and we decrease and we reduce the oil consumption increasingly. So we will find out with the study with the American, and we did German just started revolution with the ESS. So we will share the ideas and we'll find out which is the optimal way to install ESS in India.
Sure. I guess it's super important idea that we've talked about, but financing. And this is also a problem in California, creating stable value streams. And I think here you've got places, many places when you're replacing diesel, the value proposition is already there today. The only problem is financing. We don't need incentives. We just need stable value streams. And if the government, if there can be any help on just the financing side, that's helpful. And what we've seen from solar is that once you get past the bankability hurdle, then you bring outside investment in. And so that's the picture.
Yeah, perfect. And actually, it's excellent. And some of the points which we talked about, actually, we still have 1.5 day left in the event, and we're going to address almost all of these points in more in-depth sessions. So we will be breaking now for lunch, but I know that there will be some questions for the speakers, but I think in the interest of time, I think it will be best if we take those questions over the lunch. But after the lunch, we are going to have 2 back-to-back sessions focusing on renewable integration. Where first, we'll have 4 excellent presentations talking about around the world experience on integrating energy storage for renewables. But then we'll also have a presentation from IESA Rajdhani, which is a host and local utility, which is going to issue a challenge to all of you for coming up with real commercial proposals for them where they're ready to buy energy storage for addressing their on-peak, off-peak differential in energy demands. And after that, we are going to have again a policy discussion looking at experiences of groups like Power Grid on Green Corridor and some of the initial steps taken on energy storage deployment in India.
Thank you, Rahul. And a round of applause for all our speakers for this session. Rahul, if you would please. Mr. Chris Elgin. Mr. Brand Cafe. Mr. Ian Burkoff.